everybody, welcome to Conahey Rail. This video will be a little bit different than my tour video. I'll be showing you guys what I did with my Hollywood cars. For those who follow my posts on Facebook groups with Conahey Rail, you guys will notice with my pictures and probably my videos too on YouTube that I have, we're started out with a lot of Dodge and Plymouth muscle cars from the 60s and 70s. And those were the cars that I pretty much grew up with. So after I filled up the layout with a bunch of them, I started going after some of the Hollywood cars, and I'll show you guys that and what I did so visitors would recognize it, because I realized that not everybody will recognize movie cars. So what I did is for each Hollywood car that's displayed on Conahey Rail, I took old business cards, and on the back of them, I wrote information. So here we have the Hollywood show series, Starsky and Hutch, 1975 to 1979. This was their Ford Gran Torino that was used on that show. Another scene from the Hollywood movie Bullitt, Steve McQueen chase scene. This movie was made in 1968, and as you can see, Steve McQueen drives the 68 Ford GT, and he chases the 1968 Dodge Charger. That was one of the best car chase scenes I've seen to date. So, I mean, there's a lot of nice car action movies out there, but this chase scene was pretty intense. So here is the Hollywood series, I call it, the Fast and Furious. There was like 5 or 6 of those now, or I guess 7 now. But this particular Charger is Dominic's Charger from the very first Fast and Furious in 2001. This Dodge Charger from that movie I liked the best. I didn't like the way they customized it in the next series after that. But even though the Charger gets wrecked in the movie, this was the Charger I liked the most, and something I wouldn't mind having. And then there's Dominic making his beer run, going back into his house. Fun fact, the Charger that was used in the movie was not a real blown engine. It was actually a 318 car that had a simulated plastic blower bolted to the hood. And when it does the wheelie in a movie, Hollywood actually used a high-powered air jack mounted underneath the car by remote, and when the car does a wheelie, they press a button, making the front of the car launch up in the air like it's doing a wheelie on its own, which you really can't with a 318 engine. So I figured you guys might like that little bit of information. Okay, here's another one. This movie's called Vanishing Point, and it was made in 1971. It's a little hard to follow, but it's basically about a washed-up guy who drives cars from one point to another for a living. I think repos them and stuff like that. So, anyway, he starts running from the cops, and they start chasing him. And at the end of the movie, it shows another fun fact. It shows what looks like this car crashing into a bulldozer, but actually if you put the movie in slow motion, they swapped the car out at the last minute for a 69 Camaro painted in white. And you can see the tail end of that car, that it's actually a Camaro and not the Challenger. So they never really wrecked this car in the movie. Probably one of the most more famous movies is the Smokey and Abandoned from 1977. Um, so you had the 77 Pontiac Trans Am. Now, in the movie, during the whole course of the movie, Hollywood had the T-tops removed from the car. They never really had them installed. This was to get better camera shots. So there are people who wrote on my post that they actually cut the T-tops out of them to match the movie a little bit better. Behind it is the Arkansas State Police, who chases them through Arkansas. Unfortunately, they got the color combination wrong as far as the movie. In the movie, the cars were actually two-tone, but the real Arkansas State Police cars were a single color like this. So here we have another Hollywood movie car. National Lampoon's Vacation. The Family Queen Truckster. Probably the most recognized car for people who grew up during this time period. Clark goes down to the dealer. He ordered his new Arctic Blue car. I forget what the name of it was. They made up names during the course of this movie, but instead they crushed his car. They didn't have his new car. They never ordered it. So they showed him this Family Queen Truckster. And Clark looks at it. He doesn't like it. And he says, and the salesman says, well, if you hate it now, wait until you drive it. That's one of my classic scenes I like the most. The Family Queen Truckster actually came back again in a remake in the 90s. I forget actually what the vacation movie is called, but Clark is older and the son's trying to take his family on vacation, and they run into a lot of problems, and the car breaks down, and Clark opens up the garage and loans them this car right here. So it was kind of funny to see the car come back later on. I think the movie might even be made in the 2000s, I'm not sure. Okay, here it is, Dukes of Hazzard, Sheriff Roscoe, Coltrane. This was a Hollywood series that ran from 79 to 85. Unfortunately, Warner Brothers pulled the rights, any future rights to make the General Lee, so the General Lee never got made in 143 by Greenlight. They are no longer giving out rights to make that car in die-cast due to the Confederate flag on the car. Here is the Winnebago, the 1973 Winnebago from the Walking Dead series. This is Dale's Winnebago. Winnebagos during that time period were either made on a Ford or a Dodge chassis. Dodge actually had RV chassis all the way up to 1977 that they made for Winnebago. And then Chevy got into doing motorhomes as well in the mid-70s. So here we have the Hollywood movie Speed from 1994, the famous 2525 bus, where a madman puts a bomb on the bus, and if the bus hits 50 or below, it will blow up. So Sandra Bullock's got to keep this bus going until they figure out how to defuse the bomb. So this is a neat piece. And by the way, these are all 143 die-cast vehicles, and they're all made by Greenlight. So I tried creating a scene at the warehouse from the movie Christine with 3 cars made by Greenlight. So here we have, everybody would know, is the actual 1958 Plymouth Fury Christine that Arnie ends up buying and restoring. And then we have Dennis Gilder's 68 Dodge Charger. He picks up Arnie at school from his house until he buys a car, which ends up being Christine. Then, of course, the car ends up getting, Christine ends up getting smashed by bullies. And then the car is actually possessed, and Arnie has the car put itself back together. And then he goes after the bullies for revenge. And then we have the detective car, Detective Jenkins, I forget. And this is the detective's car who does the investigation on what's going on as far as kids getting killed. So this is all from the movie Christine, all three pieces. So here we have the Hollywood series Taxi. It was a sitcom show that was from 1978 to 1983. And that's exactly what it was called, was Taxi. More fun facts. For those of you who don't know the make or manufacturer of the old taxis back for the day, these taxis were actually manufactured by a company called Checker. And they only had the one model, which was called the Marathon. And Checker actually used GM or Chevy powertrains. Most of the taxis were 6-cylinders. They did offer the Checker Marathon to the public with 350 Chevy engines in them. The design behind the Checker was so that you could easily replace body panels without cutting them. Most of the body panels were actually bolted on. So when they got damaged, you could unbolt it and bolt a new piece on and keep going without having to doing any cutting or welding. So that design of the Checker cab was around forever and ever and ever because of that fact. Another Hollywood series, the 1983 to 1987. And for those who don't know what the show was about, it was about the renegade veterans who would do good for people who were in trouble. And then, of course, you had the military police who were always chasing them around, trying to capture them and bring them back to jail, but it never happened. A lot of people over the years commented, it was a show where, guns were shooting, but nobody actually got shot. So, but I watched this movie a lot when I was a kid, so that was an important scene to me. Okay, here's Herbie the Love Bug, made in 1969. It was about a race car driver who was trying to make a name for himself. He bought this car, and then he bought a Porsche, and I think Herbie wrecked the Porsche, so he raced Herbie instead and actually started winning, and then somebody who didn't want him to win anymore was trying to sabotage Herbie. So it was a pretty good movie. Okay, from the Hollywood movie Mad Max, this was an Australian movie. This is the last of the V8 police interceptors. In the movie, they take a Ford Falcon and they soup it up with a blower, and because Mad Max was thinking about quitting the police force, so to keep him on the force, the captain has the garage build this special custom police pursuiter to entice Max on staying on board, which he does do. A lot of people don't realize that the movie is Australian. So the Ford Falcon is actually a right-hand drive Australian car. A lot of people always wondered what engine did it use. It used a Ford powertrain. The Ford Falcon actually had a Ford 351, but I'm not sure if it's the Cleveland or Windsor. So you would have to look that part of it up. The V8 Police Interceptor comes back for a short period of time in one of the the Road Warrior, which was the second in the series of the Mad Max, but he ends up wrecking it. So he basically stays behind and drives the tanker truck. The car never shows back up for the third one, Mad Max Thunderdome. Then the car shows back up again, Mad Max Mad Fury, which was okay, but I thought that movie used too much CGI for me. I thought it would look better without all the CGI effects. Another Hollywood series was Sanford and Son, made from 1972 to 77. There's a father and a son, or a sitcom about a father and a son who was in the junk business. So that pretty much is all the Hollywood cars that I have on the layout so far. That's what I've pretty much done, so people can recognize that they are Hollywood cars and a little bit of information about them. So I hope you enjoyed another video from Conahey Rail. See you guys later. Bye.